back to the channel. We are the BS Review. Hello and welcome back to the channel. We are the BS Review. Hello and welcome back to the channel. We are the BS Review. Today we are here to bring you a new movie review for Happy Death Day to You, which is the second in this series. This is a horror film, and we watched the first one and really enjoyed it, so we were excited to see this one.
If you guys have never heard of this series, the concept essentially is that this woman named Tree, she's in college, and she ends up in the first film. I'm not going to spoil anything about this first film. This is like the main plot. She gets killed, but resets to the day before she was killed, and she has to figure out who her killer is, and she keeps resetting over and over again. So in this film, she is actually past that first day, but hijinks ensue, and she finds herself in another similar but different scenario, and once again, people are dying.
I will say for the plot of this one, I was a little hesitant going into it because the trailer really doesn't give away much, which I'm really glad they didn't. But I was like, okay, you have the first movie, which is completely based around repeating things, and then you're going to have a second movie that's also, again, centered around repeating things. Is this not going to get a little repetitive? Are we going to be too much in the same repetitive world? And I'm here to tell you that didn't happen, which I'm very happy about.
I felt like, especially with how the movie began, I was very worried about that because it felt like they were just going to start recycling all the things they did with the first film. And it was almost like they knew that because after the first 20 minutes, there's like, haha, you thought that's what was going to happen. Actually, there's something completely different, and I really like that.
I agree, and I think that the plot of this, it keeps its typical, first, second, third act, like most movies do, but it puts such a unique twist on the genre. I heard a lot of people saying this movie was genre bending before we went to see it, and I'm like, how? It's already, its own kind of genre that hasn't really been done a lot yet. Like a horror Groundhog Day. What do you mean it's genre bending? And then we saw it, and I was like, this is genre bending. And I think the plot could have gotten very muddled with that, with how many new things they threw into this plot and how much they changed it while also playing homage to the themes and mechanics of the first one. But I actually felt it was very clear and easy to follow, but I am also a sci-fi based person, so.
I definitely felt like the tone of this movie was a little bit more cheeky and I think rolls more into the comedy, or just it doesn't quite fit into any one category. I don't feel like it's a straight comedy. It's definitely not. There are some horror elements, but there's a lot less of that, I think, than your typical horror movie. Even like Scream, which is the closest comparison I have in terms of horror genre films, it wasn't as scary as Scream even then. So I felt like it almost embraced its campy tone in this film, and I ended up really liking that. Some people don't like camp, but I enjoy a little bit of camp.
Well, it does follow the Scream franchise a little bit in that way, because Scream franchise gets sillier and sillier as it goes, which is part of its charm. So this kind of follows that, but still keeps its own originality. It's not just like Scream. It's just the best way I have to compare the tone.
So like we said before, this film does revolve around Tree, who is played by Jessica Rothe, and I really think, just like the first film, she carries this movie. She does a really good job. She brings a surprising range of emotion for this type of movie. I felt like there's a lot of moments where her character, can be the action star, and then there's anger, there's the comedy, and then there's also a lot of heart in a couple of those scenes as well, which was surprising for this type of movie. And I think she did well in all of those scenes, and it makes me really buy into that character.
I'm really excited to see what Jessica Rothe ends up doing beyond this franchise. I really hope that she starts to blow up a little bit in Hollywood, because I think she has so much potential that she has given as example in these two films. Something I really enjoyed about the characters of this film in comparison to the first one, I felt like the first one was so focused on Tree as a character that the other characters were very much side characters. They were there to support her plot and to further her plot. Not in a bad way, it's just how it was structured. However, this one, these side characters very much become part of the plot in a much bigger way, and they have their own backstories a little bit more. We get to dig into them a bit more, and I really enjoyed that it kept them up, it brought them up to the level of the main character a bit more.
I definitely felt like this was more of an ensemble film than the previous one, especially by the end of the film. It kind of wants you to say, oh, here's your group, not necessarily just Tree at this point.
We've mentioned a little bit about how this one stands up to the first one, but I wanted to dig into it a little bit more because I do think that as a sequel, that's just a big factor in a review. The first one I think was a lot more simplified, especially in the plot and the premise. Not in a bad way, that's just how it was. Whereas this one, it really took those plot specifics and blew them out into different genres like we've mentioned before, and it also got a bit more complex while still holding it making sense. And I just really thought that this one blew me out of the water as a sequel. I think it took a lot of chances as a sequel. I think it really put itself out there in a way that people who are fans of the first one might not like the direction the second one goes in, because it's very different from the first one.
I agree. If you're expecting it to get darker or to stay the same as the first film, I think you might be disappointed, because this film definitely chooses to go its own direction, which makes me excited for a third one, which this film does set up. And, my expectations for that one is for them to continue to innovate and do something new with this kind of fun franchise they've created.
It almost reminds me a little bit of 10 Cloverfield Lane in the way that you go into that movie expecting one thing, especially as a sequel, and you come out of it with something completely different. It was very similar in that aspect, even though they're two completely different films.
So ultimately, we both really enjoyed this movie. We think you should go see it. Go give it your money. I feel like it's had kind of a quieter release than some others. It had the viral marketing, but besides that, I think there's been some big movies coming out that might have overshadowed it. But I think it's worth your time and a lot of fun. But that is our review. We are also interested to hear what you guys have thought about the film, so make sure you leave your comments down below and leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. We really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new and want to keep up with our videos. We have a lot of fun content coming your way, especially we have a bunch of big series coming out here in the next month or so for April. And stay tuned for that, and we'll see you guys on the next one.